Welcome back to Let's Talk Culture, and the topic is exploring caring roles within culturally and linguistically diverse communities. The seminar will explore caregiving roles in CALD communities, focusing on cultural practices, challenges like language barriers, social isolation, and financial constraints. We will also examine gendered caregiving and its effects on family dynamics, along with accessibility of support and strategies to improve resources for CALD caregivers. Welcome. Ishar acknowledges the Wajak Noongar people as the traditional owners of the land on which we provide our services. We continue to recognize and celebrate the spiritual connection that Noongar people have to country and waters, and pay tribute to Noongar elders past and present and emerging. Jasmine has worked within private, public and non-government healthcare systems in the Middle East, UK and Australia as part of model development, intervention delivery and research. I have had the pleasure of working with Jasmine at Ishar, and she also provides therapeutic intervention to children, adolescents and mothers, as well as clinical supervision to staff. Please extend a warm welcome to Jasmine. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella, for that very warm welcome. So I'm going to give a little bit of a dipping our toe into the ocean of what this topic is to work with mothers and families, particularly in the CALD community. And when we're working with mothers, it's important to understand that the journey of motherhood doesn't begin just when you have your little infant in front of you, that actually the journey of motherhood can begin right through the dreaming and the hoping and the planning and the trying for the baby, through the pregnancy, through the birthing experience, and then obviously through infancy and as the child develops and grows over time. And the experience of the mother shifts as well over this journey of childhood development. The experience of the mother is constantly shifting in relation to how that child is developing, and the complications that can come up through transition into school, transition into high school, the different things that come up through adolescence. So this experience of motherhood is constantly shifting as the child develops. So when women come and are seeking support for various things that are going on, it's important for us to be holding in mind what's actually happening in this mother's world. And as you can see here, we have someone that we could call a mother, and she's on a tightrope. And with that mother, in the shadow you can see she has many people with her on that tightrope, that she's balancing all her needs and all the needs of those around her as she's walking this road of life. And that when someone in her world, so usually if maybe a husband or a parent, or especially if it's a child, that starts to wobble and lose their balance, then that's going to be felt by mum, and that's going to be felt by everyone who's on that tightrope with mum as well, because she's going to wobble and lose her balance a bit. So when we're working with mothers, we're holding in mind that this is someone who needs support as an individual, but she's also someone who's supporting a lot of other people as well, who may need her guidance and her support, and so we're helping her support those who she supports too. There are a lot of different things that a mother can seek support for through the journey of her child growing up. Some of them will be specifically for her own journey in terms of her own mental health and processing some of the trauma that she's experienced through her life. And some of them will be the typical child development things, the feeding issues in infancy, the sleeping difficulties, the socialising difficulties, the ordinary difficulties of child development that are experienced across the board. What's really important to hold in mind when we're working with mothers in the CALD community is they are also experiencing additional concerns. So all those ordinary experiences that we're seeing mothers supporting their children through and their families through, they're also doing that at the same time as navigating some of the difficulties that come up, and some of them can be things around isolation that's greater than what we would see usually in ordinary motherhood, but the isolation of having family members in other parts of the world or maybe no longer alive. And so it's important for us to be holding in mind what are some of the things that are ordinary child development, ordinary family development over the different stages of life. What are some of the things that are highly specific for this particular population that this woman is coming from? And how are these two interacting? What is the interaction between the two that we're supporting her through? When we're holding in mind all of these different things as a professional, there are many different threads that are all interwoven, and it's really hard to pick apart and decide, okay, what will be the thing that we focus on? What is the thing that's most important? Because if you have a look here, it's really difficult to sort of take these different areas and create a hierarchy of what's most important. That all of them are very important and very dependent on each other in terms of us being able to support. And so this is where it can be really tricky and sometimes overwhelming as a professional when there's a lot of things that this woman is struggling with as to where are we going to focus on with her. And so it's important that we have a sense of clarity in our mind as to where these different threads that we're seeing this woman experience, where these different threads belong, and what belongs to whom. If you remember that mother on a tightrope, that she's got a lot of people who she's holding and keeping in balance, that there are things that are going on that are highly distressing for her, that are actually distresses for someone else that she's supporting. So figuring out what's hers, what belongs to whom, and in doing so being aware that there are many tasks that are experienced through the journey of a child developing over time. So the journey that the mum is holding. There are the tasks of the parent, the tasks of the mother. There are the tasks of the young child in their development, the tasks of the adolescent through their journey through high school and beyond. There are the transcultural tasks at play here. And there are your own tasks as a clinician in terms of how we're holding boundaries or risk assessment, or a range of different things that we're, as professionals, holding in mind. I'm going to focus mostly on the tasks of motherhood, although there are many different sort of areas that we could look at here. And so this is something that we call the motherhood constellation. I'm not sure if this is something that you guys are familiar with, but these are the 4 preoccupations of motherhood. So the 4 things that the mother is trying to keep in balance and trying to foster really good health around in order for her mental health and her well-being to be well supported. So the first preoccupation of our mothers are the life, growth and development of their child, that we see them focused on, am I able to feed my infant? Am I able to help my infant sleep? Is my child developing? Are they doing well in school? Do they struggle academically? Are they able to separate from me and say goodbye? All those things that are part of the child development are things that are going to be very present in the mum's mind. The relationship with her child, so how am I bonding, how am I connecting, does my child tell me when things are going on? We see this a lot in the journey through adolescence where the adolescents are sort of pushing away at mum, rejecting the family system, and how do we preserve this relationship with our child when things get rocky for our children. The third preoccupation that's really important for a mum to be able to establish, and for us as professionals to support mum in establishing, is the supporting matrix around her. So this is being part of a supportive community, whether that being a family system that she's a part of, but also the greater community that provides her support. And this is where things can be really difficult for mothers who are quite isolated, and what's really important here is this community needs to be benign and non-intrusive. And what that means is the community isn't a critical community, or it's not a community that removes agency or autonomy or that imposes their own beliefs upon this woman. That this is a supportive community that helps mum be mum. And then the fourth preoccupation is identity reorganisation. So here we have a woman who is, maybe on more simple terms, is going from childless to having a child. So a woman who's had all the time that's been her own or been able to make choices, that suddenly these things are no longer available to her because she's now looking after a child or several children. And then also there's the grief and loss of what was important to her. So things that used to define who she was maybe no longer being available to her, and her figuring out, okay, well, is this a time-based thing, or is this me figuring out who I am now as a person or as a mother? And so all four of those things are happening at the same time, specific to mothers. So there's a lot that she's juggling, a lot that she's navigating, and so when she's wobbling, it's important for us to be able to figure out, okay, well, what's going on for her and how can we support her in this different way? When we're working in the cold community, all of these ordinary parts of motherhood are true, but they're also happening in the context of a lot of difficulties. There are a lot of different things that can impact the ability for mum to be able to support herself through these four different pillars. She might have community that's not accessible to her, or there may be different cultural aspects going on. There may be multiple cultures within the family system. So there's a lot of different things that can be happening for mum in terms of how she can set these four different preoccupations into good balance. Maybe simple as, I need to feed my children, where do I find the food that is familiar to me? The task of the child, so something that we're probably all very familiar with is child development and how children develop over time. They're learning to regulate in the context of the caregivers that are there for them. They're developing self-control, they're learning, and when we're working with cold mothers, then we're also working with cold children as well, who are doing all of this in context of the difficulties that come up for these communities. So how do we teach a little person to trust and to connect with others if there's some difficulties going on at school because of some differences that they're experiencing? And so this is, when we're working with mothers, we have to hold in mind that these mothers are holding and providing a space for their children to develop in these contexts as well. And so when we're thinking about all of those different threads that are interwoven, that some of them will be mum's threads and some of them will be mum's threads that she's holding for her little person who's developing as well. The same is true for the adolescent. So the adolescent has very different tasks to the child. One of the most predominant ones is the seeking of independence and autonomy, and that comes at the rejection of the family system sometimes and can be felt very keenly by mothers when they're supporting their adolescents going through this phase of life. And similarly, this is also happening in the context of difficulties that are surrounding this young person. And this is where we find things begin to cause conflicts. So there's conflictual tasks here. How does mum create a supportive community around her or hold her sense of identity as who she is when her adolescent is in the process of rejecting the family system and going out into the world? And part of rejecting the family system in these families can be rejecting some of the cultural aspects as well, which can be incredibly painful for mum. And so we're holding in mind that each person has very specific tasks based on where they are at in their development. And mum is holding all of these people through their different tasks as well, including her own, and trying to balance all of these. And here we are as clinicians or as professionals trying to help mum understand, okay, what's going on with these wobbles of the little people in your world, and how can we help you support yourself and support this family system so that your needs are met and their needs are met in a really healthy way. And so that's where we come in and help sort of guide mum in understanding what's happening for her children and what's happening for herself, and to provide a little bit of developmental guideline, but also some timelines around, well, this might last for this long, and some expectations around that sort of thing, that we're supporting mum in making sense and untangling some of the difficulties that come up for her. And I like this little picture because it's we're holding mum who's holding little people, and maybe if she's a grandmother as well, she might be holding her own child going through that journey of motherhood and holding some grandchildren in a very different way that a mother holds a child. So what's really important for us to be holding in mind as professionals is that we are part of this supportive network, this network that supports mum, but we have to be benign and non-intrusive. So whatever our values are, whatever our cultural background is, we have to be holding in mind what is happening for this mother, what's important for this mother, that those 4 different preoccupations will be very different for every individual and very different for different cultures, and that we're there to seek understanding as to what that mother needs in supporting herself and to creating good balance in those 4 different preoccupations, and what's important for her in terms of supporting her children in their development and what this family wants for their children to develop. So some of that will be developmental guidance. Some of it will be helping her in her individual mental health and healing and growth. Often, I mean, my work at Ishar, often the mothers have highly traumatic backgrounds. They're refugee, migrant women, and so they're managing their own individual mental health as well as balancing on that tightrope and holding little people along that line as well. And so some of this will be helping them understand some of these threads are coming from something deeper as well. We've got some risk assessment and support that's part of this, and so this can be where the domestic violence comes into the scene, or maybe some of the behavioural modification practices, and providing some guidance and support in that way. And then referrals to additional agencies, that we're one person and there are many threads here that we're helping understand and support and untangle, and that we can't do that all alone. And so understanding what the boundaries is of our role, and what sort of threads we are there to support in the untangling and making sense of, and where that overlaps into other roles, and where we can look at referring on to other professionals. And this is something that I find Ishar does beautifully, has a range of different professionals and all work together to support women in this way. And so that brings me to the end of the presentation on this. It's very sort of dipping our toes into something that's a really big topic. We could spend a whole day talking about many of the different aspects and more. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing. You will all have an opportunity to ask Jasmine questions later on the panel. Our next speaker is Laura Malcolm, the Marketing and Engagement Manager at Carers WA.
So it's wonderful to be here today. I'm going to speak about our services, but then also talk about what we're doing in the cold care space. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar Nation's lands, water, customs and culture of which we're on here today, and where the head office is located. I also recognise our services reach beyond the Perth region, and so I acknowledge the cultural diversity of First Nations peoples across our state and throughout Australia. Carers WA is a non-for-profit, community-based organisation, and our purpose is to support unpaid family carers. We're the peak body representing carers throughout Western Australia, and we aim to increase awareness of carer issues, but then also link carers to suitable supports. Our aim is to build carer capacity, provide sustainable supports for them to be able to carry on in their caring journey. We like to build on the skills they already have, and then build them up with anything they might need for anything that might happen in their caring role. We want them to feel supported and reduce isolation and connect with others that might be in similar circumstances. We are big in the advocacy space, both on an individual level, but also throughout the community and working on systemic policy outcomes. Our many programs are diverse, just as are all the carers we engage with. There are no 2 caring roles that are the same, and we treat everyone that comes through to our services as such on their unique journey. We provide people tailored support services to help them along the way, and today I'll touch on what those services are, how people can access them, and how we're learning and improving to support all carers, specifically those from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. So who is and isn't a carer? So a carer is someone who provides unpaid care in an ongoing capacity for another person who needs additional support in their daily life. It's not someone who's paid, volunteers, or is contracted for their time. And this is actually a big hurdle that we work very, very hard at, and all our teams, it's one of the first barriers for people accessing services. Who are we actually talking about and who's eligible? So it's just a regular, everyday person that might be caring for someone who may have disability, a terminal illness, mental health challenges, chronic condition, frail aged, or alcohol and drug dependency. It's often a family member or a friend, and it's something that we just do for our loved ones. Caring for someone can be very rewarding, but it also can be stressful and uncertain, overwhelming, isolating, so knowing where to turn is crucial for well-being. And we like people to come to us as early as possible so we can build the scaffolding around them so they've got the support so that when something does go wrong, they know how to act, how to action things and deal with it so it doesn't become crisis point. For many, explaining the task carers might do rather than focusing on the definition can help bridge that gap in understanding. It's recognising that tasks go above and beyond what would be required in a non-carer dynamic role. The caring role can reduce the ability to continue in paid work, with many carers having to reduce the hours or not work at all due to their caring responsibilities. It might limit the social outings and interactions with people, and this would increase the feelings of isolation. We aim to give more people control and support to balance their own needs and the requirements of their caring role. So some of the things that might help people identify as a carer is if they're providing emotional and social support to their loved one, but it's also important for them to look at who's looking after their emotional and social support as well. The carer might be providing meals and shopping, managing finance and administration of the loved one, decision making, whether that be because of financial reasons or maybe medical decisions, assisting in daily activities and transport, so dropping people off to medical appointments, picking them up, those kind of things, personal care and medical care. So that's not everything, it could be less, it could be more, but those are some of the things that carers are doing for their loved ones that would be above and beyond what would be doing for another person. So why carer identification matters. Identifying as a carer and accessing our services is a barrier for many people, especially depending on cultural background. Our teams work hard to overcome this first barrier for people, and carer identification is just the first step in our work and helping support the people that are eligible. The most common mistake people make is that they think we're talking about paid support workers. We're talking about the mother that's caring for their child that has disability, or perhaps caring for an ageing parent, or maybe a husband who has a chronic illness. There's multiple different dynamics, and just recognising that anyone that's providing that care is eligible for our services. So the 2022 National Carer Survey stated that COLD respondents experienced greater impacts of caring with poorer wellbeing and higher levels of psychological distress, social isolation and financial stress. And for us, there were 1,500 COLD carers who received our services last year, and these services would have included, so they could have been a mix of the following. So it may be counselling, so this is one-on-one, face-to-face or over the phone with our accredited counsellors, peer and social support groups. We have these location-based, or maybe we have a few COLD-specific groups as well. We have a hospital program that helps people transition from their loved one being in hospital to then going home and providing care for the first time. Young carer supports, so a carer can be 8 years and above and receive our supports. We have many wellness and education workshops, Carer Gateway, which can provide people with practical supports as well, whether that be emergency respite or some short-term funding. And we also have some Be Job Ready program, which helps people get back into the workforce. So as I mentioned, many carers reduce their hours of work or can't work at all due to their caring responsibilities, and we have a program to help people get back into the workforce when they're ready. We also understand that the likelihood of accessing programs can differ from different cultures. For example, accessing counselling may not be the norm for many, or talking about certain aspects of their caring role, whether in a formal or a social setting. So it's important for us that we upskill our staff, but also understand cultural considerations is really important. So that way we can read between the lines and offer the best support we can. We also value our relationships and partnerships with other organisations, such as Ishar, and others to help raise awareness of those who we may not otherwise be able to reach. Anyone can refer themselves to our programs and our organisation. However, for many, having a service provider do it on their behalf is easier and more beneficial for them. We also value working with organisations that can help us with continuous improvement. Okay, so a few stats in Western Australia. So it's estimated that between 25 to 30% of all Australian carers are from a CALD background. However, this figure is likely to be an underestimate. 17% of carers in the 2022 National Carer Survey were from a CALD background. 80% of these respondents were female, and the mean age was 56 years old. The most common caring role was a parent looking after their child, followed by looking after a parent, and then looking after a partner. Most were also looking after someone from a CALD background. On average, these carers provided 98 hours of care per week, with 44% providing 24/7 care, which is a big increase from the 2020 National Carer Survey, which reported that the average time caring per week was 71 hours. That's a 27-hour-a-week increase. These stats provide reasoning to need to work together to reach all the carers that we can and those that require supports. Okay, so at Carers WA, what are we doing? We have a number of changes that we've been implementing to help reach people better and support people the best we can. One of those is our translated fact sheets. So we have fact sheets, and I've brought a few examples along today to help those identify as a carer. These now come in 15 different languages, and we can send them out to you for free. We use TIS interpreters for our official planning sessions. So these planning sessions are when we talk to the carer about which supports might be most suitable and put in an action plan for them. We are looking at more and more staff training, both to upskill staff and work better internally, and therefore provide better services externally as well. We partner with as many different multicultural organisations as we can. We also have our CALD peer support and social support groups, so carers can meet regularly who are from different cultural backgrounds. And another great thing that we have is our working groups. So at the moment we have a Harmony and Cultural Connection working group, which is an internal group with a mix of different staff from different backgrounds and different departments. And the objective of the group is to identify internally how we can improve our processes and services to support different carers and staff. So one of the great initiatives the group's working on at the moment is identifying staff within Carers WA that fluently speak a language other than English. They are then able to speak informally with different carers. Our TIS interpreters will be used for official planning sessions and action plans. However, this change will be hugely beneficial for many carers. It means that carers are able to speak with staff who speak different languages, to have a casual conversation and a brief overview of our processes and services explained in their own language. It might sound like a small step, but it's not something we've been doing previously. Normally we would be required to use interpreters for every communication that we have, so this little change will help a barrier for many people. They can call up, just have a basic conversation, get an understanding and know what the processes are going to involve. So it's a change we haven't implemented just yet, but we're working on the processes at the moment, but I think it could be a really nice change. So that is a brief summary of some of the services that we provide and just what we're working on in the CALD carer space. We do always encourage working together to improve, and just so we're working towards the same goal, which is supporting carers. Thank you.
work is driven by personal storytelling informed by themes of intergenerational trauma, otherness, and self-acceptance. Having immigrated to Perth from China at the age of 7, she is now a proud parent and a carer of 2 autistic children, and was diagnosed with autism and ADHD at her late 30s. So, can I get Selena up on stage to share her journey with us?
All right. So I'm actually, instead of speaking, I'm going to be showing a film that I made about my own personal journey. But I thought I'd just give you guys a bit of context for the film first. So I've got 2 kids. They were both diagnosed with autism 3 years ago, and shortly after that, I got my own diagnosis at age 38. So in the last few years, I kind of went from living a relatively normal, in quotation marks, life in the suburbs to homeschooling my kids, quitting my job in social policy and starting my business in Eurocraft, and just becoming like a really passionate advocate for challenging the stigmas and the norms and expectations that we grow up with, both social and cultural, in order to live, work and parent in ways that align best with our own unique needs and the needs of our children and people that we care for. So I made this short film last year, just reflecting on my relationship with my children and my own identity as a parent and carer. And I guess my hope is that you will take away from it the understanding that parents and carers are on their own journeys. Like, we need help with problem solving, practical challenges, absolutely. But for that real inner transformative change, we need the secure relationships in our lives that are characterized by unconditional positive regard. And that's something that I think as service providers, we are in a unique position to be able to provide. And we just need to be held and celebrated as we walk our own paths. So I hope you enjoy the film.
Last speaker before the panel discussion. I'd like to welcome on stage Manali. There's a lot I can say about Manali, but I'll let her share her story as a carer. Thank you.
Good morning to all. I'm talking to the first time in my life to the stage. I just give you the brief. I'm a carer for my daughter, primary carer for the 2 person. First is my daughter is now 20 years old, and my mom is 71. And my daughter born in New Zealand. We came from New Zealand, 17 years spent. And my daughter was diagnosed with in New Zealand, they call it a global delay child. When we came in here in 2012, they diagnosed here in Australia. They said she's intellectual disability. And just recently, last year, they diagnosed with autism level 3. As I have as a carer barrier is a totally different way to deal in here, especially in Australia. I have a very roller coaster of my life. And since 2023, I have a cancer, and have a breast cancer and 3 cancer in one place. And HER2 is a nasty one, they said, and no one can give a guarantee. And then, plus we are citizen of the New Zealand, then we have a COSA funding. Wasn't that great help because I don't have a special category visa or anything. Then I was struggle with the NDIS. And I just have, now whole family is a citizen of Australia. When I was with the COSA funding, they told me when is the NDIS, you have a more funding and you get the more services. But since I have NDIS, I don't have the same things, all degrees, and I have to gather in the more, there are going to be more documents. And very, very hard to be achieve the documents because of that. Since we are here, is depend of the providers, how they've written down the progress notes, how they keep their documents, how they delegate the incidents, you know. Plus, since I'm here, I have a financially struggle, but I can't say because I'm a citizen of Australia. Oh, sorry, New Zealand. Then they not recognize the, and I don't have any care allowance since I just have this year start the care allowance first. I don't have a care allowance as well because, and I don't have any supports. Plus, she was neglected 11 years by COSA funding and NDIS. Because of that, we don't have a citizen of Australia. And plus is, I don't have the right providers as well because I don't have that. Because in New Zealand, everything done by the school. You don't have to worry about to find the OT, speech, or physio. It's done everything in the school, they learn in the mainstream. Everything was fine, she was reading level 2 and everything, and I learned very, 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 very hard way in here. Is since I have think about it, I'm separate with my husband 5 years now as well, and we are separate in the same roof. It's not same. It's very hard. In my cancer journey, even not my elder daughter, because my elder daughter in 2019, she abused by her boyfriends, financially, physically, and she suicide 3-time attempt. Then she's my ex-husband daughter. We have a very complicated house, and plus my health issue, because I end up with diabetes, arthritis, cholesterol, high blood pressure. I have already carpal tunnel operation done by 15 years ago. I have a surgery here in my right legs. I was fall down in a mole, that's why I diagnosed with the cancer, because I don't know if I have cancer. That's, it's very hard. I find out it's very hard to be someone educated me and navigate me and delegate me how to be, I can get the services. Because I find out services merit to go down for me. Without referral, they're not doing it, anything. Plus someone sending me each other rather than solving the problems. My problems is the same. I'm in a depression. I'm taking every day 20 tablets a day at the moment. Depression tablet, sleeping tablets, you know. It's end up with like that. Sometimes they say, go family care. Sometimes they go to the aged care. Sometimes they call me the youth aged care. But I'm not that eligible. NDIS is, okay, you can do the online. I don't have an online capacity because I'm not an online person. Because my daughter had a global DHI since after she was 5 years. I'm working in aged care as well. And my daughter decided to, the daughter not helping me. She was second mother, she's helping me, but because now her mental level and everything is juggling at the moment for me. Is a roller coaster. I am with the WA care for a long time as well. My past is not good. My future is I can't see. I want to live in the present. And my problems is now is financially. It's a barrier for that because I can't work now. I'm not working 2 years now. Plus, I'm working in aged care. Then is pulling and pushing. I'm not anymore because I have arthritis as well. Chemotherapy damaging my bone and my everything is totally deteriorating. And I have 2 primary carers. My mom have a health issue, complex health issue. And all the time, I'll give you one example, like a budget. before I come here, I had to call her coordinator. Because of that, I try myself to do the gardening, but I don't have the capacity because I have arthritis. It's painful, and I have lymphedema as well. I'm not winning, and I have rotated my hands and everything. And I need ongoing supports. Then I don't have, no one can guide me to where I can get the ongoing supports. Because KRW have a budget. They can't do the ongoing supports. I tried, they said try the coaching, but it's coaching, but one time they say coaching, but we are not here for this, we are not here for that, we are not here for this. Then what they here for, I don't know, because I couldn't understand, I couldn't figure out why they here and what they want to help. For the counseling is, for me, is wasting my time, because it's at the moment, it's just like a gardening. They said, why you spend money for the garden? I want to be done the weeding, because that's helping me, you know. But they say, Commonwealth, they can't do this, they can't do this. I don't know where it has to be go. Plus, they use the budget, huge money. Then you take out the budget, then I have to be all the time changing. Okay, my mom is a physio need, my mom need an OD, my daughter need a therapist, because my daughter was neglected by 11 years with the therapist, she hasn't got a therapist. I was in a meeting, like a seminar, and I have to go to the phone calls because my daughter is threatening with the support worker with a knife. Then when I have to come, I have to tell them I need a support worker until 1:30 because I want to come here, because that's a barrier. I can't go to any socializing. I don't have my me time. Financially, I felt like I'm a beggar, because at the moment only care allowance is $150. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to pay the phone bill, light bill, everything. I'm struggling at the moment. But I'm not eligible for the NDIS. I'm not eligible for the any carers WA. I'm not eligible for that. My job is there 24 hours with them. Yesterday I was with the meeting, you know. I never go out. My husband is anti-socialized. We have a conflict since 25 years, but I can't leave him because I don't have a capacity to do everything. That's why I want to be someone, like a provider is there, but I don't know which provider is good for my mom or good for my daughter. I'm trying it, but I didn't achieve anything. Plus, I can't cooking since 2 years because it's chemotherapy. I had a 21 chemotherapy, and I was like that. When my mom having no pension in here, and we have to transfer in New Zealand, and everyone said they can't help me because they have a barrier. I was in a chemotherapy, I'm just like that. I don't have energy because I'm a vegetarian as well. I couldn't eat outside as well. Plus, after the chemotherapy, I don't have that. My body is not cooperating. Whatever I eat, frozen food and everything, then vomiting start. It's not like before. I used to eat leftover food, but after the chemotherapy, I'm different. My primary care is role, I had to fight for that. I have a 2-time surgery happen, I have a lymphedema, I have an infection. My wound is not healed since February. I'm still fighting for my niece and my mother niece and my daughter niece. But I want someone to be how to balance, because otherwise I'm trying to achieve my needs, then something happen to them. Otherwise I'm trying to achieve their needs and their goals, then I'm deterring with my health. And they give a solution is, okay, you can go is aged care and group home. But it is sometimes is, yes, it is there, but a group home and age is not helping me, because It's trauma for me as well. To be, because I want to heal. That's I'm talking about everyone. I want to heal, but I don't have anyone, and I have to be for something to be referred. I have to find a social worker. You know, without social worker, they're not listening. Sometimes they say you have to go in a hospital and they ask for the social worker. They can help you, but it's nothing straight. I can go and find something. It's otherwise I go, I repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat the same story every day. And now I'm getting more tired now because it's enough to be repeated. It's not give me happiness. It's give me more stress. I just put in a short now. Is it like a me time? Then like education. That's my barrier because I can't go any further, educate myself. Physical health issue and financial issue, culture issue, I have a diet issue. Then is balancing parenting role plus my daughter is hard for me, and social isolation, everything. And then is my three keys: me time, practical support, and funding issue. That's I said is organize before we leave the house. That's the problem. Is meaning of you don't have support, you can't leave the house without, because my mom is high for risk. That's why it's especially you can't educate her, you can't go work. You have to be, I'm not working anymore, and I don't think about it at the moment, because who's going to look after her? Because it's only 4 hours supports, then I have to support them. Where is my income is, you know? That's very hard as well. Yeah, that's my facing at the moment, and hope so it make a sense for you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Manali. You've come a long way, and we hear you, and you're just an incredible person. To be brave to share that story, it takes a lot of bravery to be honest and go that deep. So thank you so much.